You said, and I'm quoting you here, it would be, quote, appropriate and beneficial for children under 16 to have formal gender recognition. Is that to say that you would support, for example, an 8-year-old being able to have their sex legally changed?
I think in the committee that scrutinised this legislation, we heard from a wide range of trans people who knew well before they were 16 that they were trans. And I think we should be looking at processes where they can be recognised. That does not mean to say I'm saying we set an age at which it's fine. I think there will need to be much wider discussions around protection.
Below 16, you're thinking of a child below the age of 16 would have their own decision about whether to change their sex legally. So in theory, an 8-year-old could do that.
I think in principle, we should be exploring that. Let us remember that in Scotland, the age of legal capacity is currently 16. At 16, people can vote in Scottish Parliament and our local elections. People can get married. Those are, big decisions too. And I think this 16 is absolutely where we should be at the moment. And I would like to explore options.
Would you lower the voting age to be 8?
I think we should actually look at how young people in general are treated across society. I think there's a lot of...
So in Scotland, you'd like to see 8-year-olds being able to vote and legally change their sex?
That is not what I said. Please do not twist my words. I think when we're talking about gender recognition reform, it was very, very clear. If you go back and read the transcripts from trans people themselves, they knew below the age of 16 that they were trans. And I think we should explore options. That doesn't mean to say it's a blanket opportunity. We should explore options for that.
Well, let me put your words to you rather than apparently putting them in your mouth. You said sex is not binary and immutable. Can you point to an example of a human being changing their biological sex?
I think it's very, very clear that when we talk about sex being binary in GCSE or O-level biology textbooks, that is a gross oversimplification of what is going on. And what we know in terms of the expression of how people live, in terms of...
That's not sex. Sorry, I'm asking you for an example.
Different relations to hormones.
I'm asking you for an example of where a human being has changed their biological sex.
When we look at how our bodies express hormonal relationships differently, hormonal levels differently, that binary definition that we are told is right is far, far, far too simplistic. It's not about necessarily overly changing, but actually very few of us know what our chromosomal makeup is because we don't
Well, hang on, when you say it's not necessarily about changing, do you accept that there are no examples of human beings changing their biological sex?
I'm not actually sure we can say that because we don't have the chromosomal makeup of every single human being. We don't know that. Do you know what your chromosomes are? Yes. I've never had mine tested. I don't know what mine are. And I think only when they are displayed in different ways can we actually make those kinds of judgments. And I think the important point here is I'm not a trans person, but I think we have heard very, very clearly from trans people that this legislation is important to them. This legislation will make a material positive difference to their lives. That is the policy reality of this piece of legislation. Well, that is what we should be focused on.